back. Today we are doing something a little bit different. Camille is behind the camera while I am going to show you one of my newly favorite recipes that I've made a couple times for my friends that's gotten some really good feedback. So today we're making spicy sweet sambal noodles and I think you're really gonna like it. Let's do it. I like to start every meal I make by prepping all my ingredients and making my mise en place. It's a French word that means everything in its place. And it really is that. We are going to measure out all the ingredients we need, chop up all the veggies that we need, put them in little bowls, and then they'll be ready for us when we're ready to use them in the recipe. I'm going to start measuring out all the liquid ingredients, and then I will start prepping all of the veggies and garlic and ginger. First I got a knife. I said I was gonna start with liquid, but you know. 1/3 cup of rice vinegar. Mise en place is really something that will help you in your cooking become more efficient, help you clean as you go, and really just make the process a lot easier and less frantic. And 1/4 cup of soy sauce. I'm just mixing it with the rice vinegar because they'll go in the pot at the same time, so it doesn't really matter. And then 1/3 cup of sambal olek is one of my favorite ingredients to have on hand always. I love it as a hot sauce alternative to sriracha because it has all the heat that I want without the overwhelming kind of garlic sriracha flavor. God, packaging is really not my friend. 1/3 cup of sambal olek, 2 tablespoons of sugar. Honestly, just having everything prepped as possible will make your life so much easier, even if it's something as little as sugar or salt or whatever it is. If you're new to cooking, mise en place is really going to be your best friend. It'll help you with timing. If something is too hot in your pan, you can always add a liquid ingredient to kind of mellow that out. And by having those already measured out on hand, it really helps you just dump it into the pot when you need it and not have to worry about measuring it out or finding the ingredient in your cabinet. 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, and I get another bowl for this. The tomato paste goes in the pot at a different time than the sambal or the other liquid ingredients, so I'm putting it in its own bowl so that it's separate. Okay, I'm gonna put my liquid ingredients away and then we'll get to prepping the garlic and the ginger. Ooh. I'm using 8 cloves of garlic, so I like to crush the whole head when I'm using that much to get all the big pieces out. I know a lot of people don't always use fresh garlic. If you have jarred garlic in your fridge and that's what you enjoy using when you're cooking, that's great. Just use the amount that they tell you is comparable to 8 cloves of garlic. I really do recommend using fresh garlic. It has a much fresher flavor. There are different ways to prepare garlic for your dish that you're making. In this one specifically, I plan to put the garlic in the pan when the heat is a little bit higher. It's kind of a hotter pan. So I'm using larger pieces of garlic, a larger cut of garlic, so that when it hits the pan, it does not burn as quickly. When it's really small, like crushed or microplaned, it really is just kind of a puree of garlic that's so easy to burn. So if you're planning on putting it in a hot pan, then just a larger cut is better for you. So I'm using about 1.5 inches of ginger. Sounds a little strange. If you're not familiar using ginger in recipes, when you do read a recipe for fresh ginger, it's always measured in inch increments because ginger is sold as a root, right? So recipes will measure it as 1 inch, 2 inches of ginger to let you know how much to use. I always freeze my ginger because it lasts longer, but also because it's a lot easier to cut. Being a little bit frozen, it really lets you get through those fibers. Ginger can be a little bit fibrous and hard to work with sometimes. So if you're not very comfortable with a knife, I can see how this would be a little bit intimidating. A lot of times when I'm preparing ginger, I use a microplane instead of chopping it. This will make it much, much finer than what we have going on here. However, it will taste very similar. You can do whatever you want.
To each your own.
To each your own. Now I'm going to prep the cucumber. I'm using English cucumber here. I find the other type of cucumber you can find in the store to be a little bitter. So this one is great. It is sold in saran wrap, so that's how you can identify it at the store. I originally found this recipe on Bon Appetit, and I made it a couple times the way that their recipe is, but the last time I was making it, I decided I wanted to change it up a little bit and veganize it. In that process, Camille and I decided we would put some fresh cucumber in it. We love cucumber, and it really worked so nicely in this recipe. It adds this really nice fresh bite to it that lightens it up, and it's just delicious. I'm gonna take about half a bunch of cilantro, just twist most of the stems off of them. The tender stems throughout the leaves are no problem at all. I always use them in my cooking. They actually also have a very nice strong cilantro flavor, and they're not tough, so why throw them away? I'm just gonna roughly chop it and set it aside. Just gonna do little wedges of lime for everybody's plates. Go ahead and set those aside as well. Okay, last but not least, we have to prepare our tofu. We decided to use tofu in this recipe when we were developing it into a vegan recipe because honestly, we just thought it needed more protein. And I'm really glad we decided to go with tofu because it tasted so good. The extra texture in there and the extra little bits were a really nice addition. So just drain the tofu out of the container. I'm gonna go ahead and use a towel to dry it off a little bit before I cut it. Tofu is really wet, but cooks better when it's a little dried. This is firm tofu. You could use either firm or extra firm, but I would not recommend using anything soft. You won't be able to cut it into little cubes as well as you will with a firmer tofu. So I'm just drying off the outside, and then I'm going to cut it into little cubes and set it aside. I am going to just put it on the cloth we used. I just want to collect as much of that moisture as possible. So just gently wrap it up. Everyone has their different methods. This is how I do it, and it works. a pot here of water that I am warming up a little bit now to get ready to boil it for my pasta water. And this wok here, I am going to do everything else in and then finish the dish in here. For this recipe, we are going to be using Impossible meat. It is sold in a 12-ounce package, so that's how much we're using. If you don't want to make this a vegan meal, that's perfectly fine. The recipe that I am riffing off of today is a pork noodle recipe, so that would taste really good in it. Or you could use ground turkey or chicken or beef, whatever you'd like to use. If you are using pork, it can get a little bit greasy with the fat in the meat. So I found that 1.5 pounds, maybe even 1 pound was good enough for me. But if you like really meaty, saucy pasta, then go ahead, use 2 pounds of pork. Don't use any tofu if you don't want to. Camille and I decided to use tofu as an additional protein in this dish because honestly, Impossible meat's a little expensive. For 12 ounces, it was about $10.50. So we decided to use tofu as an extra protein. That's definitely a lot on the more affordable side. If you don't care about the expense, then just go ahead and use 2 packets of Impossible because I definitely think that it needs more protein than just one 12-ounce package. Wash my hands. So one important thing to pay attention to when you are browning anything at all is you want to make sure that your pan is hot enough that when it hits the pan, it sizzles a little bit. So this is sizzling nicely. If you're using any other kind of animal product, same thing. You want that sizzle. I'm just breaking it up in the pan a little bit to help it brown. And then I'm going to leave it alone for a little while because when you're trying to brown something, you want it to have that contact with the pan and not move from that heat source. So that consistent heat source on whatever you're browning is what's going to get you that color. If you're impatient and stir it all the time, you're never going to allow the food in your pan to stay on that heat source long enough and actually get that brown color. So just be patient, leave it alone. So it's browning really nicely. I have a really great dark crust on the outside of one side. I just flipped them over a little bit in the pan, let that side brown a little bit, and then I'm gonna use my wooden spoon to break them up into little crumbles and let them brown all together so that you have little crunchy bits of the Impossible meat. I am also using this pan to make the sauce in, which starts with garlic and ginger. So it has already been used to brown the meat at a medium-high temperature, so the pan itself is pretty hot right now. That's why we cut the garlic in larger pieces so it doesn't burn when we throw it in our pan. I'm gonna add a little extra oil to the pan, not much, but I just want something for the garlic and ginger to saute in. Ginger in. Don't forget to turn your heat back on. We're gonna go medium. Garlic. I'll just let that get fragrant. Once you can smell it in another room, it's good to go. So the garlic is nice and fragrant. I'm going to add that tomato paste that we measured out earlier. Tomato paste is a cooked ingredient. However, like any other canned tomato product, it kind of tastes like a little bit like aluminum that it's been packaged in. So you want to cook that out to develop the sweetness of the tomato and get that actual rich tomato flavor in your dish. It's this super bright red color right out of the package, but as it hangs out on your pan, it will darken a little bit, and then you know the sugars have developed and it's at the point you want it to be. As I mentioned, this recipe is adapted from another recipe from Bon Appetit, and Their recipe uses pork, right? In their recipe, they have you add all the sauces and everything to the ground meat after it has been browned so that you can simmer the meat in the sauce. Last time we made this, I tried that with the Impossible meat, and the structure of that protein just did not hold up in the sauce very well at all. So I wanted to try it this way this time to get a better texture during the end result of the actual full dish. So if you are using pork or chicken or whatever you're using, add your garlic, ginger, tomato paste to your ground meat while it's still in the pan. Do this same thing, cook out the tomato paste, all the same steps, just with the meat in the pan. The tomato paste is cooked out. I am going to add some sugar, the soy sauce and rice vinegar, and the sambal. I almost forgot that I want to add 2 cups of water to this as well. You want to simmer this sauce for about 20 minutes while you cook the pasta. So the water helps simmer all the ingredients and incorporate all those flavors without too much liquid from the soy sauce, rice vinegar, evaporating off and making it a really concentrated sauce. So 2 cups of water. Again, if you're using meat, this creates a nice simmering base to simmer that ground meat in and continue to cook that, which may be necessary for the type of protein that you're using. So I'm gonna crank this to about medium high, and then I'm going to move on to the pasta. Anytime you make pasta, you always want to salt the water. I like to tell people that anytime you're making any sort of starch that is absorbing the water that it's cooking in, you want to salt that water because that's the only way you'll truly season the ingredient from the inside. So your dried pasta is soaking up all its water that it's cooking in. You want it to be salty so that you really taste the flavor of the noodle and your final dish doesn't taste bland. I am throwing the lid on for just 1 more second. The salt actually increases the boiling point of your water. Even if your water is rolling boiling, right before you put the salt in, you'll dump the salt in, and then it will just take more heat to bring it back up to a boil because science. So originally this dish does call for ramen noodles. I like to use spaghetti for it instead because it's so much more accessible. You can use your favorite type of spaghetti, any kind will work. Or if you're lucky enough to have a place that sells fresh ramen noodles near you, go that route. Fresh ramen noodles are great, I've heard. This is my absolute favorite pasta brand. If you've ever talked to me about pasta, you definitely have heard this brand name, Jovial. I buy it at Sprouts. Look for your local grocer. This is incredible. Anytime I go away for a while, pack it in my suitcase. My boyfriend always makes fun of me because I show up with a food suitcase and my clothes suitcase, since I don't know if the grocery store that I will be near will have the pasta that I want, and I am a super loyal fan, so this is it. The box is sold as a 12-ounce box, where normally pasta is a pound, so I'm gonna go ahead and use 1 box plus a little bit of another box. Okay. The spaghetti takes about 11 minutes to cook. Once that 11 minutes hits, just taste your pasta to see if it's as cooked as you'd like it to be. The idea here is that you want to give the ingredient you're browning enough room in your pan to actually brown. If your pan is crowded or your ingredients are all piled on top of each other, they will steam instead of brown. So you want 1 nice layer here to get good contact with the pan, and then leave it alone. I'm gonna check the pasta for doneness. Definitely tastes done to me. We're just trying to get a little bit of texture and flavor here. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of soy sauce, salt, and pepper probably to the pan. I'm gonna add this Impossible meat to our simmering sauce for just a couple minutes while I finish this tofu up, in hopes that it absorbs a little bit of the sauce flavor. If you are using meat, you would have already had your protein in the sauce, so you would just skip this step. I've mixed up all my spoons. I don't know what's what now. I like to buy basil in a plant at the grocery stores. It stays a lot fresher this way, and it will regrow if you continue to water it, which is awesome. Perfect. Probably 1 teaspoon here. Oh, a snack for the chef.
A little mouse snack.
Little bit of salt, little bit of pepper, and maybe my holy grail granulated garlic, because it's my friend. In the sink. And then noodles in the pot. It looks so freaking good. I'm now gonna add in all of our green ingredients. So the cucumber, cilantro as well, and then I'm gonna just tear up these basil leaves a little bit. They're kind of big. I'm so excited. This looks so good. Oh my gosh. Make sure to get all the good stuff in there. A little bit of tofu, some cucumber, and the lime wedge, and it's done. All right. It's so good. Oh my god. Perfectly sweet, spicy balance. Let's put the lime in there. The basil is so good. The lime really sets it over the edge. It's so delicious. Honestly, please make it. Make it vegan, make it not vegan, whatever you want to do, it's freaking delicious. So trust me, trust Camille, and make this for your friends and family. It's really impressive looking. I am going to dish up 3 more plates of this and feed it to my hungry roommates who are just about to go on lunch. I really hope you try this one. If you make any sort of version of it, whether it's vegan or not vegan, please comment down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to see pictures of what you make. Our Instagram is It's Naomi and Camille, so tag us on there and I would love to see all the food you create. I'm really hungry, so I am going to devour the rest of this off camera. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next Thursday. Bye.